There are a handful of lenses that I use to get me through most of my shooting needs on the Sony system, and I'm going to go over all those here today. What's up, guys? If you're new here, my name is Paul and I run a channel that inspires other creators of your futures, whatever you make it, do that through gear reviews, tutorials. Yeah, my favorite lens, if you don't already know this and you haven't been around long enough, is the one I'm currently using right now and the one I use for all of my talking head videos in this studio and a lot for my friend's YouTube channel, which is the 24mm 1.4 G Master. That lens is so amazing, and maybe I'm just in love with the 24mm focal length because when I started on a Panasonic, the kit lens was a 12mm, which is the equivalent of a 24mm lens. And I use that a lot, and I just kind of got used to that focal length. And then when I switched to Sony, because the autofocus was dang good, and still is, it was just kind of like I wanted that focal length. It wasn't my first lens that I got, but it is one of my favorite. And I don't suggest people to start off with this lens. Honestly, you probably should, hate to say it, get the 24-70 to start because it has that focal length in there. It really depends on what you do. We'll get to the next lens when I explain that. I would suggest getting a zoom. I got this lens after I've already had a set of zooms, and it was literally my first prime lens that I bought because I knew 24mm was the one that I really wanted. So it's been my favorite lens. I use it for B-roll a lot. It's just a really nice wide aperture that doesn't distort the edges, that can get really low light, goes to 1.4, get that nice background blur, and it's just beautiful. Nice separation when I need it in low light situations. I can. I don't always shoot in 1.4. It's a really sharp lens, so shooting in f2, f3, f4 with this thing looks amazing still. But if you do want to get that background separation, it is quite easy to do with this lens. And it's why it's my favorite lens. I use it for pretty much at least every shoot in some sort of fashion, whether it's the thumbnail, whether it's B-roll. Obviously, I use it for my talking head. So it's my all-around great lens. I definitely am never getting rid of this lens. It's staying in my arsenal, even though I've been tempted to try to just go all zooms because they're so versatile. But anyway, that's the story. Going on to the next lens, which is the zoom, and I just acquired this year, and I really wish I acquired it sooner, is the handy dandy Sony G Master 16-35. I think if you're a YouTuber or a content creator, you gotta have a wide lens, and there are now quite a bit of options for. Dang, I gotta turn this off. Can't you guys see that I'm recording a YouTube video right now? There are quite a bit of options for Sony E-mount lenses from third parties and from Sony. It's a great system for Sony, man. There's so many lens choices. If you can't find a lens that works for you in the Sony system, you're just not doing something right. This has been my suggestion now for anybody that wants a budget wide-angle lens. And honestly, if you're starting off on YouTube, this is probably the first lens you should get, in my opinion. I use this as my 24-70 for YouTube content creation. I could do this lens alone, do B-roll, do talking head, do my vloggy style stuff. I mean, this lens does it all, and it is a little bit of a beast, but it's really not that bad. And when it's at 16mm, it kind of bulges out, and I love it for vlogging because I don't even have to have a tripod. I just kind of found myself holding it like this in the little crevice of it, and just kind of holding it by the lens like this. And oh, see these labels right here? I have them on pretty much every single lens of mine. They're awesome. I have a video about that, where I got them, but it's just great for knowing what lens is what, right on the front and on the back. I picked this up used because now there's the version 2 out. And there's a lot of speculation on should you get the version 2 or version 1? In my experience, I've used both a little bit, the version 2, and everybody that I've talked to that has extensive use on the version 2 says it's not that much lighter. It is a little bit lighter than this. It's a tad bit smaller. They're very similar in size. So really you're just getting the faster autofocus, but everybody said that the difference was like very, very negligible, if that. Most people can't really tell the difference between not only the picture quality, it's a hair sharper, I guess, if you really want to pixel peep. The original 16-35 G Master is amazing. A lot of my YouTube content creators that have used the new one said it wasn't worth it for them to even sell their version 1, and they're just still rocking the version 1. But what does that do for you? That allows you to be able to buy the version 1 on the used market for a fantastic deal, or even buy it brand new for $1,800 versus a $2,300 price tag of the version 2. So if you want to save a pretty penny and you still want to buy new, you can still get this. However, in my personal opinion, you can find these things for like $1,000 on the used market. You go through Facebook Marketplace, most people are trying to sell them for like $1,200, and you can usually message them and say, hey, I got $1,000, can I come by and pick it up now? Especially if you find one that's a little bit further away from you and say, hey, I gotta travel. I drove like 2 hours to get this lens because the guy was willing to sell it to me for $1,000, and this thing, they literally was used 5 times before I got it. This thing looks practically brand new when I bought it. Once you go G Mastery, man, it's hard to go back. You might be asking yourself, should you buy the Tamron 17-28? And I used to own that lens. That was my lens that was my second lens that I purchased instead of buying a G Master because I didn't want to pay the money for it. But now this thing is so, like, you can either spend like $800 on the 17-28 new, or if you grab a used one of these in decent shape, you spend like $300 more. You get a fantastic lens. And what I found with the 17-28 is I always felt limited. It's 28-75. You always want 24 millimeters. For the 17-28, you just wanted that one extra millimeter on that wide end. It just helped a lot. Plus, 17-28 is not a big zoom range, and I find that, you know, even though I am a love of the 24 millimeter range, there's 3 focal lengths that I really use a ton on of this. Obviously, it's the 16, the 24, and the 35. That's what makes this lens golden. And anyways, enough about this lens. If you're looking for a wide lens, I highly suggest trying to grab one of these used. You'll be super happy, and you're gonna get super high quality G Master for a budget price. My next lens that I go for is the Tamron 28-75. Now, I just got done telling you that I'm annoyed by Tamron lenses, but the reality is this lens is super light. It's got a good zoom range. The only thing I really wish this lens did was went to 24 millimeters, because yes, if it went to 24 millimeters, I could just bring this one lens with me and never have to worry about bringing that lens with me for some shots. Now, I still do that. I still use this as a regular 24-70, and I feel a bit limited when I do that, and I miss my 24 millimeter focal length because it's real deep to my heart. This lens is still a budget banger. This is the version 1. They got the version 2, which is even sharper, and the autofocus works even better. Not the biggest upgrade worth for me, especially since now I find myself using the 16-35. It's like my 24-70 is a 16-35. Do I want the Sony 24-70 Mark II? Absolutely. And if I could go back, and when I bought this lens, the Sigma was not out. So I would probably buy the Sigma today if I was on a budget. And if I could afford it, the high dollars, I would go the G Master, because that light 24-70 actually is worth it over the version 1. Because you can find a hefty version 1 for like $1,000 as well on the used market. And I've seen them even go cheaper than that, because there is a significant difference between the 24-70 G Master 1 and G Master 2. The autofocus is like way better. It's way lighter. It's an all-around beast of a lens for the upgrade. So yes, the Mark II if you are. But anyway, the Tamron is still in my bag. If I'm carrying around 2 lenses for the day, it's going to be this one and the 16-35. We're going right along to a lens that I need in my bag because it's affordable. My wife likes shooting with my A7C, which is technically her camera, but I use it all the time. This is the Tamron 28-200. Now, I really, I'm going to say it again, really want that 70 to 200 version 2 Sony, but cha-ching, cha-ching, it is expensive. And this thing you can get new for like $650. It's crazy. And if you can find this on the used market for a steal, it's great. It's amazing. It's a fantastic lens. 28 to 200 is such a huge range for this size of lens. I mean, it's literally the same size as the 28 to 75. I mean, they're both like, they just took the 28 to 75 and they threw this inside of it. It's a great family lens. So if you don't want to break the bank and you want like a high zoomy range, then just grab this lens right here. It's great. You can go to, I use it at SeaWorld. I've used it for stuff like that. I've used it at the zoo. The only downside to this lens is it goes to 5.6 on the 200 range, and it's not a constant 2.8. The cool thing about this lens, though, is it is 2.8 at like 28 millimeters up to like 30 millimeters, I think. So having that ability to be at 2.8 at the widest is super helpful. This lens for the money is amazing, and it's pretty sharp of a lens. Once you have this lens, you can decide which range you prefer, the 24 to 70 range or the 70 to 200 range. And you can kind of find where you shoot a lot of your photos and where you like to shoot a lot of your video. So it's a great lens to learn on for that. And my last lens that I have, I absolutely love this lens too, but in a different way. And you're like, some people might think, well, why did you buy the 16 to 35? Because this is the 12 to 24 f4 lens, and this thing pretty much only comes out when I'm shooting real estate. Just because the front bulb, like you can't put ND filters on it, so it's just nice. That's why my 16 to 35 comes with me everywhere. But this thing is cool. I mean, it's lighter than the 16 to 35. Like, this is definitely lighter in the hand. It's definitely a bigger lens, but this lens is a gangster real estate lens, and I have a whole video about why this lens is the best real estate lens. But in a nutshell, I just shoot everything at f8 anyway, so the f4 didn't bother me. It's a really sharp lens. It's a G lens, and the really expensive 2.8, there's just no way. I'm not buying that, and especially when I'm shooting everything at f8 anyway inside real estate, and I'm not bringing around that other lens for like regular travel. So this was a great one. If you're into real estate, you can find this. There's one on Facebook right near me right now, and I guess it doesn't sell used because it is kind of like a niche lens very easily. They're asking like $900 for this lens, so you could get this lens for like $900. Use it for vlogging until you can get a lens that you can screw on or whatever, or just crank the shutter. Who cares? But yeah, you can use this lens for vlogging. You can use this for real estate. This is a great lens. I shot this at the Sony Alpha event for a test run, and wow, I was blown away by how wide the 12mm. I mean, it is super wide. So it's a fun lens. But anyways, check out the video if you're into real estate, because it's a great lens. Those were my favorite Sony lenses. At the end of the day, what are my next purchases? Honestly, I've been tempted to go all zooms and just have a 16 to 35, 24 to 70, and the Sony to 200. And I think I could be perfectly happy with those, but I would still absolutely miss this wonderful 24mm G Master goodness. So anyway, I think I want to get an 85 and the 70 to 200, and I'm done. I promise. I'm done. I'm not going to buy any more till someone else cool comes out, because I got gas syndrome all the way, baby. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more videos, and you guys know that I will see you in the future. Throw this thing up in the air like this G Master. You like, oh, ooh, could have broke that.